Welcome everyone who is here today. My name is Ellen Oakes. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, Greater Chippewa Valley. And the helpers that you've seen in the back, we're all members of that league. And we're very happy that you've all turned out tonight to actually see your candidates in action. I have a set of rules to read out for them, but first I want to thank the sponsors that helped us spread the word so that you all found out about this. Chippewa Valley Votes is one of the organizations that's sponsoring tonight's event. Jonah, and I believe that's, help me with this, Joining Our Neighbors, Advancing Hope. I'm not very good at rattling that off, sorry. And the AAUW, American Association of University Women, is also sponsoring this event tonight. And of course, so is the League of Women Voters. Now I have a set of rules that the candidates understand tonight's event will be following, and I need to put my glasses on to read them. The order of speaking for opening statements was determined by drawing lots. And number one is sitting right next to me here, that's Ethan Reed. So it goes in that direction. The opening statements can be as long as 3 minutes. And after each person has had a chance to introduce himself or herself, then we will go to the questions. If you didn't get a card to write a question on, there will be someone walking around with extra cards that you can pick one up or get one from her. And those questions will be brought to the table over here and kind of sorted into categories, and they'll feed me as many questions as we have time for tonight. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer a question. Any candidate may answer every question, so we won't get to very many questions tonight, but we will cover a broad range. At the end, each candidate gets 3 minutes for a closing statement. And there is a timekeeper. She's sitting in the front row with a purple shirt. Hold that up high, Donna. She'll tell you 30 seconds before you have to quit speaking, and then she'll put the red sign up. If you have a cell phone in your pocket or whatever, please turn it off. Thank you. What do I mean if? Everybody does now, don't they? Okay. I think I've gotten all of the rules out for you. So that would mean that it's time for Ethan to give you a closing statement. Opening statement. I'm very efficient. We finished our meeting already.
Check one, check two, great. Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Reed. We all know why I'm here. I'm running for Eau Claire City Council. I was born and raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I moved to the Chippewa Valley about 9 years ago. That was to go to UW Stout. I got a bachelor's degree in Information Communication Technologies. While I was there, I became a student representative, and I was able to advocate for higher student wages across all jobs across campus. Seeing those wins, it kind of inspired me to continue organizing. So when I graduated university, I became a field organizer with the Wisconsin Democrats. In 2022, helped Tony Evers get reelected, helped elect Jeff Smith, among others, as you might know. In 2023, got asked to come back. In the meantime, I got elected union steward, so I was elected to represent about 35 full-time employees, actually holding the Wisconsin Democrats accountable for their treatment of their field organizers, which I just thought was very interesting. So after the Janet Protasewicz race was finished, I joined Opportunity Wisconsin, where I'm now a regional organizing director for not just Eau Claire, but people in the region. And in short, we help raise up Eau Claire families and working class families so that their stories can be heard when, well, in this time, we need a lot of working class family stories to be heard. So I'll stop talking. It's been great to meet you all today. My priorities will be investing in affordable housing, building safe infrastructure, and strengthening our local economy, which I hope I'll get to talk more with you folks about in the coming moments. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Joshua?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joshua Miller. I currently serve on the Eau Claire City Council, finishing up my first term, and I'm running for re-election for a second term. A little bit about myself. My family moved to Eau Claire about nearly 20 years ago. I got involved in local government when I joined the Waterways and Parks Board. I served on that for 6 years and was chair for the last 3 years, and after I had to leave that, an opening came up on the Eau Claire City Council, and some people came to me and said, hey, there's an opening, would you consider running? And I thought maybe 5, 10 years I might look at it, but I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. And I was elected, and I'm very grateful for the trust that people of Eau Claire put in me 3 years ago to serve on City Council, and want to continue to work for the people of Eau Claire. You know, me, I'm a scientist by trade, my wife's an educator, and we have a kid who goes to Memorial High School. And these 3 years on City Council have been, it's a lot of work. The people talking to me about how much work it takes, and it was even double that what I thought. A lot of long hours, a lot of meetings, a lot of constituents, a lot of going places and meeting with people. And there's a steep learning curve, but I think after 3 years I've finally gotten a good handle on it and want to continue going. My vision for Eau Claire and what I've been working on in the past and what I want to keep working on in the future is I want Eau Claire that's ecological and sustainable. I oppose the Niagara bottle water plant when it tried to come to town. I championed the No Mow May ordinances so we can have better pollination in town. Also, a little less exciting, but essential to the city is the fiscal stability. I helped get the public safety referendum that gave more funding to fully staffed our police and fire departments. And then the past 3 years have been a lot of time on ARPA funding, investing in many different areas in housing, transit, infrastructure. Our new well, PFAS, has all come from the ARPA, and we've had long deliberations on the ways to best spend those monies. And then looking for the city as a whole, I want Eau Claire that works for all. There've been growing pains as we do infill and expand, but we need to have more housing because we are sorely under the housing stock. It's just going to take another 8 years of building houses before our vacancy rates, which is like about under 1%, which is nothing. That's why it's so hard to find there's just not enough housing. So we need the land and the infill to ease the housing crisis in the city. Also, I want to make Eau Claire a welcoming place for all. Back when the refugees were resettling in Eau Claire, there was a lot of opposition from the county and from Chippewa, but I saw in Eau Claire County, everyone was really in support. 90% of people who spoke Eau Claire County were in support, so I brought a resolution to the Eau Claire City Council welcoming everybody to our city to make it a welcoming community. And I've advocated for a city down in Madison. I've gone down there to get better municipal funding and funding for university projects as well. So these are just examples of areas where I've served Eau Claire and will continue to serve in a similar fashion if I'm reelected, so thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Miller. Nate Otto?
Thank you. I'm Nate Otto, and as a public school teacher, I like getting people to raise their hands. So we're going to have a little bit of audience participation here. I am curious if I've got any former classmates in this room. So if you are an UW Eau Claire Blue Gold, raise your hand. All right, we got some Blue Golds in here. If you are a North High Husky, raise your hand. No Huskies, are you all Memorial people? All right. Memorial people, all right. Memorial's great too. Any Longfellow Lions? Longfellow Elementary? We have a Longfellow Lion, that's great. So I was raised in Eau Claire, born in Milwaukee, spent my childhood in Eau Claire. And why am I running? I'm running for one word. It boils down to one word, and that is gratitude. I grew up low income on the north side of Eau Claire, not far from Longfellow Elementary School, in a low income family, and this town was good to me and my family. It invested in us through public services. It invested in us through working with the education system. It gave to us, and this is the way that I know how to give back. I've got a master's degree in public policy from the Humphrey Institute. I left Eau Claire for a while, but have come back recently. I served 2 years on the Eau Claire County Board, and some people believe in charitable, or are able to give charitable contributions. I give long speeches back. I believe public policy is a science, and I want to take a data-driven approach to running our community, running my community, and make this a place that my children can enjoy and look back on fondly the same way I do. And I also appreciate everybody being in this room and listening to all of us.
Thank you, Nate Otto. Mary Catherine Partlow. I got interrupted when I was writing your name down and didn't get your last name on my paper, so.
It's a long name, and we'll blame my mom for the first name. So she gave me Mary Catherine. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I am Mary Catherine. I'm from Eau Claire. My family's from Eau Claire. I'm third generation Eau Claire. My great grandfather actually started Gillette, which turned into Uniroyal. My grandfather and both my grandfathers worked there, and so did my father. And I know what Eau Claire was, and I want to see it get back to that. I want to see where we actually bring in infrastructure and companies that actually build our city back up again. I want to see that we become a community again. We've lost a little bit of community, and that saddens me. We have little pockets of it, but we need to all introduce ourselves to all these little pockets. My background, I was raised a farm kid in Rock Falls, Wisconsin, because we lived here in Eau Claire, but family member passed away, so we had 5 kids, we went down and worked on a farm. I then went and I graduated from Stout, UW Stout, and got my degree in Human Development and Family Studies, minor vocational rehabilitation. Now what I'm doing in my world is I've been an advocate for the people with no voices. So basically, if you are underserved people, or you were a person who got left in between the systems, I was that person that came and helped you to get back into the systems. The latest thing that I did was I helped with the Lakeside people that all of a sudden lost their homes and they had to find a place to go to. So I worked with those people. I'm now creating, because I got tired of going to the city and asking for help with affordable housing, because they talk about it a lot, but there wasn't a lot of moving forward of it. So I'm actually creating my own nonprofit, where I'm actually going to be bringing in 37 homes, cross our fingers. That'll be tiny homes that will be helping with the homeless population and also with affordable housing. And then we have another 10 acres. We'll also be building some more affordable housing. Our hope is that in 2026 we'll be digging ground and we'll be up and running by the end of 2026. And working with RDA right now. So if you want to know more about me, I'm more than happy to talk to you at any time. You'll have my information out there, so please, I'm all about giving a voice to the people, and that's why I'm running for City Council.
Thank you, Mary Catherine Partlow. And now Charlie Johnson.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to our host for having this event. It's always great to get out and talk with members of the public as a candidate. As was mentioned, my name is Charlie Johnson. I've had the pleasure of serving on City Council for the past 3 years. I first moved to Eau Claire in 2016 to pursue a bachelor's degree at UW Eau Claire, and it was really during this time that I came to appreciate the importance of partnerships and the community public-private partnerships that make Eau Claire so great. My senior year, I served as student body president, and through this work, I had the opportunity to work on 2 rather large projects, the Sonotech Center and the first half of funding for the new science building at the university, both of which are going to be great assets for the community. And it was this that led me to want to run for City Council, because I saw the great work that was being done, and I wanted to be a part of that. I've had the great honor of supporting some initiatives over the past 3 years, such as PFAS contamination in our water, the initial steps to address the affordable housing supply and homelessness, and then of course responsible growth and development. I really consider myself to be a pragmatic, fact-based leader, and I want to bring that leadership to council for another 3 years so we can continue the success that we've had and ensure that we have long-term success over the coming decades. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Charlie Johnson. Now I have the first question to ask the candidates, and I'll start with Ethan. Will start getting the chance to answer this. 2 minutes he will have. And then any of the other candidates in order can also address this question. Or they can pass it on to the next person. And the first question already has come up in the introductions. Affordable housing. Affordable housing has been a top priority of the City Council for years. A primary strategy has been to use public dollars to help bring private developments across the finish line. What other ideas do you have to increase the amount of affordable housing in Eau Claire?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on affordable housing. Obviously, it's something that everyone in the city is thinking about. We can look to our partners at Grow and Menominee and see that they have implemented a lot of policies like accessory dwelling units that allow more people to live on less lot sizes. We can look at the current ZPAC rezoning that's happening in the city and seeing that we're trying to reduce overall lot sizes and reduce overall house sizes. And finally, we can also incentivize small developers outside of the downtown area to build housing that actually lasts and that won't kick people out of Randall Park and won't kick people out of the Third Ward. We don't need any more popsicle apartments downtown. We need investment in all of the neighborhoods around there, and that's what I think is best.
Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah, so affordable housing, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. One of the things that's going on right now is that the ZPAC, the Zoning Policy Advisory Committee, has been meeting for the past, I think, 2 years now. I think we just finished our 10th meeting. We've had a lot of public input. And later this summer, that's going to be coming to public viewing on the actual written code. What that's going to do is going to look at the current zoning, which is kind of dated. Last major overhaul was in the 90s, and the way we live today is different. There's a housing mismatch. There's too many single-family homes and not enough for smaller units, single people, small families, elderly people who are living alone. So we need to right-size the amount of stock that's available. Also, the zoning is going to look at the way that the minimum lot sizes. So you can have smaller lots, houses take up more space, or even smaller houses. Because right now, if you have a house on a large lot, you pay for all this extra land that all just adds to the cost. So by looking at the zoning and how you can build the houses, that's going to bring costs down by just allowing houses to be built differently. And just make sure that we have a wide variety of housing types. We need stuff anywhere from studio apartments all the way up through still single-family homes to ensure that there is a housing unit that's right for anyone who's looking for one. And also looking at infill in the city, because something that's often overlooked in housing is that the cost of transit. If you build a bunch of apartments around the edge of town, that's good, but if everybody's driving 15, 20 minutes in and out of town, the hidden cost of transportation fees make it expensive to live there. So we need to look at making houses that fit the people that need to live there, but also don't add a bunch of transportation costs to their monthly bills.
Thank you, Joshua Miller. Nate Otto?
Something to consider with housing is that the market is pretty volatile. I believe on some indicators it might have peaked in 2020 and has been going on a roller coaster pattern. It's a challenge for a city to manage. First off, cities have limited control. Eau Claire is not a gated community. And second, these are being affected by national forces in play. So how do we mitigate against the volatile housing market and the limited control that the Eau Claire government has over this? I'd say the best solution is to focus on mixed development, focus on think of it as a portfolio where we encourage multi-unit housing, single-unit housing, kind of cover the spectrum of possible needs. This does require us to try to predict the future, but that's part of the job, trying to predict the future. It would be a good way to, have a balanced portfolio as we approach this problem. That would be my take.
Thank you, Nate. Mary Catherine?
Well, this is my world. All right. So I gave up. I gave up listening or talking and being around people that were just talking about affordable housing. I'm going to be 60 years old in April, and I just had enough of this. I actually then created a nonprofit. I'm going to tell you right now, creating a nonprofit is not an easy process, but I'm going to do it. I've already got the contractors all ready to rock and roll. I'm right now just holding and waiting on the zoning laws to change so that we can purchase this property, so we can actually put 37 units out there that will be affordable housing. It will also take the people off of the streets and give them a hand up. A hand up, meaning that we'll actually, be making it so that they have the ability to shower and have some humanity in their life again, where some of these people haven't had. They're working poor. They just can't afford to live in Eau Claire, but they're still working, but they live on the streets of Eau Claire. The other things we'll be doing is that we'll also, at this nonprofit that I'm creating, is we'll also have showers and we'll also have laundry so that our homeless have ability to shower and to wash their clothes and have storage for their area so that they can actually go out and look for jobs and get in the job market. I'll be working with the community, because this is the one thing that happens in Eau Claire a lot, is that one organization will not talk to another organization, and another organization won't talk to another organization. It happens all the time here in Eau Claire. And so what I want to do is bring this collaborative thought process, is that we are there for all people of Eau Claire. Not just the ones that are living in the homes, but the ones that are actually homeless and are looking to be just homed again.
Thank you, Mary Catherine Partlow. Charlie Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. I won't spend too much time repeating what other speakers have said. One thing I will focus on, one thing that most of America doesn't really do great is creating mini communities within the community itself. If you're talking about affordable housing, as Josh mentioned, you have to talk about transit, you have to talk about access to a grocery store, you have to talk about close access to schools. It's all comprehensive development that has to take place for affordable housing to be effective. If you build affordable housing, but it's on the outside of town, it's away from a grocery store, accessible without a car, it's just, you're not going to be successful in the end. So you really have to take a smart, comprehensive approach to your development to ensure that your affordable housing is not only affordable, but also effective in creating these smaller communities within a community where people can either get back on their feet or just thrive as you want your residents to do within the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie Johnson. Okay, this next question will be for Joshua Miller, and then it'll go down the line and come back to Ethan last. You understand? This is in the same category in a way, homelessness. Since 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, Eau Claire homeless population has increased, putting a strain on local resources. What city policy or budget priorities would you propose to create resources to house people and reduce homelessness in Eau Claire?
Thank you, yes. The homelessness, as just stated, ever since COVID, has not subsided. In fact, it gets worse every year. Twice a year they do a point-in-time count, and I think that we have the highest level of homelessness than we've had since they started doing this. I'm really encouraged by the recent collaborative effort with the Chamber of Commerce, the Eau Claire City County Health Department, and the Eau Claire County Department of Human Services. As stated by some other people earlier, a lot of times there's resources out there, but they're all disparate and they don't talk to each other. And we're finally getting major players all on the same page to try to address this together. Because if you send people to one organization and they have to go to another organization, they have to go to another organization, and they're unhoused and they don't have a vehicle, this is very trying. But by having a one organization where they can go to, this is going to facilitate finding what they need. Also, going back to the ARPA funding I talked about, the city donated $500,000 for the purchase of a building to be used for what they call now a community resource center. That should be coming online here in the spring. I believe Western Dairyland is working on the final stages. Last night I heard it, so hopefully we'll be hearing about that working soon. And then also there's an effort to also, at the same time while having a resource center available for people, starting to look at resources and getting private partnerships to look at housing first approaches to homelessness, where if you just get people into facilities to live, places to live, they're no longer homeless. Rather than having them do resources first and then try to work their way to homes, you do what you can to get them into housing that has been sponsored by different organizations and groups. And once they are stable there, that makes it way easier for them to then use the resources that are out there in order to stabilize their lives.
Thank you, Joshua. Nate?
I believe that any solution to the unhoused, to the problem of homelessness, begins with respecting the inherent worth and dignity of the homeless population as human beings. And a lot of good points were made. I would add that it's not a homogeneous population, that there are different degrees of homelessness, ranging from somebody had an unexpected medical bill or domestic situation where the solution is a little easier, all the way down to severe mental illness and substance abuse, where the solution is more difficult. And I bet there are ways where we can address much of the homelessness by simply funding domestic centers, by supporting the local county or city and county health officials, and adding just a little more of the safety net within the city's control. and that would be a beginning step. We also want to consider programs like Housing First. We do need to make sure that it is scalable to our community. There have been extensive studies with Housing First on larger communities, and it's important to consider Eau Claire's size as a medium-sized town. And that's how I would begin to approach the homelessness situation and step toward solutions to it.
Thank you, Nate. Mary Catherine?
Well, if you actually go downtown and you talk to the people that are actually being affected by homelessness in Eau Claire, you're gonna find a lot of ideas. They all have ideas down there. The only problem is that they're not brought to the table to actually find out what those ideas are. So the first thing that we have to actually do is talk to the people that are being affected by it. So that's what I did. And what do they need? What do they need to get to be better? How can they get handed up and not just handouts? How can we actually make this a community event versus just a city event? That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm on city council, so that I can show that there's a community out here that has all kinds of wonderful ideas, and we're not utilizing that. We're only sticking where we're sticking, and we don't go out there and we actually don't talk to the community. That's what I want to do, is make sure that people understand that, yes, there is addiction issues out there on the street. Do you understand that the addiction issues sometimes actually start after they become homeless? Because in Eau Claire, if you're homeless, you get a ticket if you try to sleep. Try to sleep on the street, on a park bench. If you fall asleep, you get a ticket. They've made homelessness illegal in Eau Claire. That's part of the problems that people don't see. We also, the city, gave money to Sojourner House, which was not one more bed was actually created for the homeless people. They built a really nice second story. They did a really good job. The other thing that people don't understand is that there is this whole thing of understanding homelessness and that there's all these multi-levels, but what it is it's a human thing, and if we don't start treating it as a human thing, then we've lost all humanity, and that's where I'm trying to get the community back in Eau Claire.
Thank you, Mary Catherine. Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. I echo what the previous speaker said. On top of that, when you're talking about homelessness and kind of in relation to affordable housing, I think what can't be left out of the discussion is just the fact of the wages that our workers are making, that people are making. Minimum wage has to be addressed at the state level and to what degree possible at the local level. If you look into the numbers, I think it's frightening to see how many people are just one or two missed paychecks away from becoming homeless themselves. And I think that sometimes that's lost in the discussion. You could have just one situation happen and you'll find yourself on the street homeless as well. It can happen to anyone, could happen to anyone in this room. And one way we could begin to address that is through discussing the wages that people are making. I mean, the minimum wage hasn't been properly addressed in years now. And if we can take a step in that direction, in the right direction in that area, that can just check off one of the areas that we can really try and help people get back on their feet and stay in a strong position so that they don't have to become homeless in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Ethan, your turn.
Sweet. You want to pass it down over here?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. No, you're good. I mean,
I just feel you needed to.
So you've heard a lot of great perspectives about what to do about housing. My perspective has been shaped by a lot of you sitting in this room. I've already chatted with you about this. And I'm not going to say anything new. You guys all know that Western Dairyland, Wisconsin has been practicing a housing first model since 2016. It's not that we don't have organization between groups. I know, I work in the community full time. What we need is more affordable housing stock. And how we get that, I'm going to listen to the Jonah Affordable Task Force, I'm going to listen to Western Dairyland, Wisconsin, because I recognize I do not have all the answers. I would like to hear from you guys, but I understand that this is a forum, right? So I'm not going to add anything more other than Eau Claire is doing a great job with what they can be doing, but I think one thing that is really frustrating that I've been hearing folks say is that we can't just keep building apartments downtown that have no affordable housing whatsoever, or only 30% affordable. We need to have apartments that are for everybody and not just for the wealthiest in our city.
Thank you, Ethan. Next question. Transit. The Eau Claire Transit System provides over 700,000 rides per year. And a new transit center is scheduled to open later this year. How would you work to increase utilization of our transit system, including Sunday bus service? Okay, the first person to start answering this will be Nate.
Great, thank you. Growing up in Eau Claire, we didn't own a car, and we relied on public transit. And as a result, my family was able to patronize different businesses to generate sales revenue for these places that we otherwise would have had to alter our strategy on. I believe that transit needs to be expanded, and I know that ridership is not always what we hope it is. So I think there's a need for some public awareness of transit. No national trends. There are younger generations of professionals are less enamored with car culture. Transit keeps people moving, keeps people traveling to different places, keeps the economy flowing. Bus transit is great. I would love to see cooperation with state and local entities to expand this to passenger rail to the Twin Cities. That would be a fantastic goal if we could have easy public transportation to the Twin Cities. That would require a lot of collaboration between local, state governments and other organizations. But put simply, let's expand transit. It'll be worthwhile in the long run, and keep boosting public awareness of it.
Thank you, Nate. Mary Catherine?
Okay, so when I grew up, the city transit actually used to go to Menominee and used to go to Chippewa. I'd like to see that again. Our jobs are not here. They're in our neighboring communities. And this would help with, if you want to go green, it would help with that. It would, because what we've actually had, we're actually has a system where they come and pick up our community members and take them over to Ashland. So if we would collaborate with Chippewa and the business owners that are there, and then also in Menominee where we have the Walmart distribution center, we could actually bring revenue in to help with increasing our bus system here. I think it's a great idea, but I've never understood why we didn't have travel on Sunday, because if you're a weekend worker, right, how are you supposed to get to work on Sunday? You know, that's the day you gotta work. I have a lot of gratitude for bus drivers because my mom actually was a bus driver. So they put up with a lot. So for me, what it is that we do need to increase the bus system so that it make more sense that it doesn't take you 2 hours to get someplace in Eau Claire when you're on a bus. That we have more buses running, and we actually work with our communities around us, meaning Chippewa and Menominee, and so that we can bring in maybe some revenue on that aspect, and making it so that our people that live in Eau Claire actually are able to, that work out of our city, can actually get a bus to get to work. Oh, keep doing that.
Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. I think the fact that the city of Eau Claire has a transit system like we do is incredible, but the fact of the matter is it is a bit archaic in its nature. There hasn't really been a change to it in a couple decades here, and I agree that it needs to be expanded, but I don't think it needs to be expanded in the sense of just increasing service time. I think it needs to be expanded based on demand and where that demand is. And what we'll be launching this spring and summer is kind of a pilot test with the microtransit, and I think that could offer a lot of solutions out of the data that will come from that and research that can come from that about what are our potential riders wanting, where are they wanting to go, where is it being used the most, because then that can also have a kind of direct effect on what new routes could look like. Because yes, we hear a lot that some constituents they're confused as to why they see a bus passing by when it's empty. Well, I don't think that necessarily means that the transit system is not needed. It just needs a revamp of where its routes are going and how users are using it. The fact that we have one, we can't lose the transit system. There are so many people in the community that rely on the buses for their work, for their livelihoods. I think we just need to find a way to tailor to the demand of the residents of Eau Claire so that it can be used to its most effective nature.
Thank you, Charlie. Ethan?
Yeah, I'd like to speak more to what a previous speaker just mentioned. We absolutely do need to focus on the areas where transportation is needed the most, and I would say that where it's needed the most is in the downtown area. We need to have free shuttles to and from parking to where you actually want to go, because our parking situation downtown is untenable, and we need to have some kind of shuttle system, some kind of rapid transit system, so that people can go from the parking garage to where they need to go and back for free. The students already ride the bus for free, and so I wonder, why are they the only protected class who gets to ride the bus for free? Why is the fare still $175? So,
Okay. Joshua?
I'm a huge public transportation advocate. I love when I travel to other regions. I can take the bus, the trams, or whatever. The transit currently, I think, cited 700,000 rides per year. This is down from 1.1 million rides that used to happen in the late 2000s. So unfortunately, although we still have the same bus system, just people are using it less. Car ownership has gone up since COVID. This is not a trend I like to see, but it is a fact that's leading to decreasing transit. So we need to look at ways to make transit more enticing to other people. If we went to a fare-free system, that would cost $850,000 a year. We could do it, but we'd have to make choices about other priorities. A Sunday bus service would cost $375,000 a year. So these are all dollars. I would love to have Sunday bus service, but we have to come up with $375,000 to pay for it. Municipal funding does not have it. There is possibility for state funding. A lot of our funding is from federal, and right now the federal funding is not a safe situation in any regard. So trying to expand Sunday with federal funding is a no-go right now, unfortunately. As my council member Johnson pointed out, we are looking at our legacy system. We need to constantly examine, where do the buses go? Where are the people going? We're implementing a microtransit system for the 3-4 areas. Bus lines to the northeast side of town, which are some of our most underutilized ones. If we can have more on demand and smaller vehicles, that could probably get people where they're going faster, better, for cheaper. So there's been a lot of looking at transit, and this is our 50th anniversary of transit with the opening of the transit center. We'll be very excited to see when that's open. So I'm a strong advocate of transit, and we need to continue to look at there and see the funding, where we can get more of that to provide better services or reduce fares, and then looking at servicing the areas that need it the most, and maybe shifting service from certain areas to cover where more people are going.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, I want to ask you if you might have thought of a question that you want asked while this was going on, and there is someone who could pick that question up from you or give you a fresh card to write on. Put your hand up if you need a fresh card. Someone here? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody need a card picked up? Okay. Just trying to keep us all in the loop here. I have another question here for, I think this time I'll be starting with Mary Catherine. Trash collection. Trash collection. What are your plans for updating the trash collection ordinance so that fewer trucks are in the neighborhood, thus saving fuel, reducing pollution, lowering risk to pedestrians, and less wear and tear on the streets?
Trash collection. I'm like with you. We have 3 garbage services that run down my street, and it's on Wednesdays and it's loud. And I really haven't looked into this, and this would be something that I would probably want to create something where we bring the garbage services in. I know that there are some garbage services in Eau Claire that don't do a very good job, and I would like to. We also have garbage services here that are locally owned. And want to expand. So it is looking at all of the garbage collectors to find out how can we utilize them the best. But it would be a conversation that I would want to have with them, and to find out what they think would be the best avenue for that, so we don't have it, so that we maybe do zoning where each company gets a zone. So it's a big open-ended question on that, because we've had garbage services forever, and so that is a good question. I'm going to leave that to somebody who's been working on it. Very good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. So the city actually just completed a trash study And one of the revealing natures of it is that Eau Claire residents pay significantly more than comparable cities for, there's no like increase in service for that number. And so there are a number of options. I mean, you could bring trash in-house, which other comparables have done, and the city will run it. That has extremely high upfront costs, but what it does reduce is that then the city has more control over that issue, for example, of 4 different companies going on the same street in one single day. The city has more control over kind of mapping out the routes, and it makes it a little bit easier for residents to pick which trash provider they want as well. I think the bottom line is the city has to find a way to reduce the price that residents are paying for trash. Because right now it's just absurd that they're paying such a high amount for no increase in service. I'm still kind of weighing the options as to what would be the best option. I like the idea of bringing in a house. However, we do have some really incredible services that are already provided in this community, and so I would hate to see those small businesses lost. But I think there could be a really interesting way of kind of incorporating some sort of mixed multimodal system where the city is operating in tandem with 2 of these partners, so that we don't have to lose them, but we can kind of find a way to streamline the system a little bit more, so it's not such a, I guess I could say, mess that it is right now, with just difficulties for our residents and also the increased traffic that we're facing down the roads for our community.
Thank you, Charlie. Ethan?
Yeah, I agree. It would be great to see more coordination between these disconnected trash collection groups. I don't have a lot of opinions on this. Would love to hear other people's thoughts, but generally speaking, it doesn't seem right to me that 4 trash trucks would drive down the same street and hit 4 different houses just because, you know, they just happen to be customers of each. So that's all I've got to say for that.
Joshua?
Yeah, the trash collection. This was a bigger issue, I think, post-COVID, when I think a lot of the haulers had trouble getting enough staffing to meet all their route needs. We heard a lot about that. Fortunately, they seem to have gotten the number of people staffed on the trucks up, so the regularity of the service is not a problem. But once again, we do have all the competing trash services. We do have a great local company. Some people thought, oh, why not let them do it? But they're the smallest of the ones, so for them to scale and to cover areas would be difficult. And there were talks of having many different areas of the city, but then we've heard back from people who don't want to lose their choice from who their hauler is. The local company offers, for instance, composting, and none of the other ones do. So if you live in an area of the city where you would then be with one of the competitors, then you lose your composting, and a lot of people work against that. So it is a problem that doesn't have an obvious, easy solution. The study has been done and will be coming forward, and it's going to be going to public hearings to get more feedback from people. But it's not the biggest problem in the world, but not having to have competing people, because you look on the street and if you see 4 different companies' trash cans out there, you're going to have 4 different companies' trucks all going down these streets. So just about noise and congestion is an issue. So I don't have an answer for this one, but we have been looking at one, and we're want to get more feedback from the people, the residents of the city, to see what they find best. In the end, whatever decision is made, it's not going to have everybody on board with it. That's the unfortunate thing, because people have their choices, the preferences of what they like. So, but we do want to try to streamline this and just find the one that gets the most people on board with it.
Thank you, Joshua. Nate?
I think this is an excellent question to ask for multiple reasons, and one of them being, road traffic, especially heavy truck traffic, matters. When I was vice chair of the Eau Claire County Highway Commission, truck weight was a very significant issue, especially when it dealt with the landfill. Roads that are made for heavy garbage truck traffic, for heavier multi-axle vehicle traffic, require extra maintenance. They have extra wear and tear. They require extra strong builds. So I think this situation will save us a lot of money if we can reduce the total number of trucks on the road collecting garbage. Here's the problem. As everybody's mentioned, we don't have an answer for this yet because this is early days. So here's how I'm going to approach the issue. I'll approach it thinking about 2 axes. On one, we've got how the city manages garbage collection. Some cities, the sanitation collection is like a city department. Others, it is contracted out by the city. And others, on the other end, it's private, and this is what Eau Claire has. So there are trade-offs along that spectrum. Like if it's a city department, then the city, the voters have, and taxpayers have so much control, but that is a high upfront cost. And when it's private entities, we get a situation like we have here where sometimes it could be one where we pay extra, but the city, as customers, pay extra, but the taxpayers don't pay extra. So that's one axis. The other one is we've got to consider the needs of the customer versus the needs of the laborers, the sanitation workers. There are a couple dozen sanitation jobs in play here, and we want to protect these, I believe they're union jobs. We want to protect them, but at the same time, we also want to consider the needs of the customers. Where do we fall in line?
Charlie, this is your question to start with. Parking.
Oh,
I get the fun one.
Can you give your thoughts regarding the need for more parking in the downtown area and for affordable housing, as well as how these competing needs can both be addressed? That kind of came up a little earlier in talking about housing, so.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously parking downtown has been a topic of discussion at this time. I think the most feedback that we are getting on council is the discussion surrounding the potential that has been put forward about potential paid parking. Parking downtown as it stands, we don't lack parking spots. There's not a lack of parking, but what we do lack is parking spots where people want to park, right? We have the big ramp, however, people would rather be down on the street, parking so they can be closer to their business. Where this runs into issues is that when that's packed full, Barstow Street, for example, we hear from business owners that they would like more movement in the car so they can get increased traffic into their stores. Currently, with the free parking that we have, like what I share is that nothing is free. Like that is subsidized to the tune of $300,000 a year. And whether or not paid parking will take place will, of course, be discussion with the businesses. But I think we need to look at South Farwell, for example, which is very much so a barrier street from the downtown to the neighborhood on this side. And potentially coming up for discussion will be what is called a road diet. And if we could make South Farwell Street into more of what Barstow looks like, where it's calmer traffic, you also open up the opportunity for a plethora of new parking spots. And so this eases that kind of difficulty that you're facing where residents come down on a Friday night and they feel that they can't find their spot, or business owners are upset as well that they can't find their spot. But it also offers up the opportunity for more infill development, for more infill housing. With housing comes parking. It's just it's just a fact of the nature. And so you kind of have to balance both, and as we get the increased traffic and growth downtown, we'll have to continue to discuss parking because it will play a role in the overall aspect of it.
Thank you, Charlie. Ethan?
Thank you. So, I think I'm pretty confident in saying that making downtown parking paid would not be a good idea. We really don't want to limit downtown just to rich folks who can pay for it. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and while I know it's kind of a bomb, I think that's the right decision. What I think we should have is a pass for people who work and live there. Because it's a travesty that people who work and literally own the bars downtown have to get ticketed 5 times a day while they're on their shift. It's a mess that people who live in the Barstow buildings downtown have to move their cars 3 times a day because they're getting tickets all day. I've spoken with people directly who have that experience, and I think we should prioritize them over the tourists. And we should have a separate pass for those kinds of people. And in terms of what a previous speaker said about a road diet, would love to see it. Would love to see South Farwell slow down, open up parking spots. That's just a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Joshua?
Thank you, yes. I think it's been in the news lately that the city commissioned a parking study to be done, and that was presented at numerous meetings and accepted by the city council. And all that means is that we acknowledge that this is the report and that we now have taken ownership of the report. The report had a lot of smart ideas in it, but it's just a framework to start from. There's going to be communication with business owners, residents of downtown, in the city. Our deputy city manager will be leading these discussions to see what people actually think about this idea. One thing about the parking is that they noticed that the pricing structure was flipped. So the free parking is the street, and that's most desirable. And then one you have to pay for is the lots, and that's least desirable. And in no market do you have the things that are the most desirable being free, and the things that are the less desirable being paid for. So that's the biggest takeaway from this one, but that is a suggestion from the parking study, and we'll be hearing from all of the people downtown on what they think about the idea of making the lots less expensive and maybe $1 an hour. And talking about the pricing, I think the suggestion was $1 an hour. So if you're going to a restaurant and going to drop $30 for a dinner, $2 for parking is not going to add that much to it, but it helps keep the traffic turning around. The park's supposed to be open for more people. But once again, that's what the report said, and we're going to listen to the community. And then there was a reference to affordable housing in this one. I think that might be a reference to that low income housing tax credit, or LIHTC housing, it's a very low subsidized housing where people who make as low as 30% of the county median income can afford units there. And a track that is available for that one is the Schlegelmilch parking lot. But there are a number of people downtown who use this one. So this is a very hard weighing between having extremely affordable housing or having this lot available for people who are downtown. This is a really hard decision. We'd like to see low-income housing, and this is a direct way to get low-income housing, but it would come at expense of the lot. But perhaps with a development, we can put maybe a ramp in there, something to still have parking and still meet this. So I think that was a reference some people might have been making to the low-cost housing and parking. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of good points have already been made. I'm going to touch on a few talking issues that have not yet been made. First off, downtown does have its surges. With the Schlegelmilch House, we've got 3 churches that use that parking lot, and especially during wedding season, during Sundays, that lot can get pretty full. The churches are worried about that, understandably. The fear is that this potentially temporary need for affordable housing, as much as we understand the need for affordable housing, could cause a permanent, non-changeable solution of getting rid of the lot and having the churches relocate. Nothing has been decided on that yet, of course, but this is an ongoing concern. Another concern is Water Street. We need to remember that downtown is not the only place where people park. There's the Water Street area. And along those lines, let's remember the 3rd Ward when we're talking about parking studies. And finally, I want to call out the Jamf lot, where there have been noise complaints of people in the Jamf lot. And I bet there's some way to mitigate that as well. Quality of life thing, small, but it matters to the people that it matters to. And as far as Farwell Street, I live on East Hill. I love taking my kids down to Reboot Social to play games. But Farwell Street it's a barrier. And when we make Farwell walkable, however this happens, then we're going to expand the area where people park, and that in itself will alleviate parking downtown.
Thank you, Nate. Mary Catherine.
Well, to me, parking should have been thought about before we built all the buildings we did downtown. You know, kind of the cart before the horse thing. One thing that hasn't been mentioned is that I understand we need to bring some revenue in to, take care of the, the streets and things like that. The thing that I didn't hear about is handicap parking. That needs to be out there. We have handicapped people in our community, and they're not able to actually access downtown because there is really very limited handicap parking. My thought process is that where the bus station is being utilized now, is that would be another place for a ramp, because then we would have a ramp there, we would have a ramp in the center, then we would have a ramp at each end. And then I like the idea of having it where then we would have a system or a trolley system, which we have a trolley that goes down there, which is really cool, I've got to get on it. And have the trolley system be able to drop people off where they need to go. So there would be a trolley system that would come from the parking ramps, at least for the ones for the Farwell. I really like Charlie's idea on the Farwell thing, because Farwell, I went to Central. I don't know how many people remember Central. And yeah, that was always a fun road to get across when you were trying to get to the Civic Center. That would be a place. I would just like to see Farwell open again. I don't know about you guys, but it would be nice to actually be able to drive down Farwell without steering. So for me, it's an uphill battle, because we have a situation where they did planning before they actually did the real true planning, which was parking. He wanted to bring people down there, but then he forgot that there was actually going to be people there. So it is a multitude of scenarios we have to look at, and that's again bringing the community together, bringing different voices to find the solution to that. And I have to stop. But, no, okay. Okay, I'll stop.
Thank you, Mary Catherine. Can I ask, can you all hear Mary Catherine? She's not quite as projecting. You can't hear her? Good, that's excellent. Just try not to put your hand in front of your mouth.
Oh,
Thank you. Who am I on next? Who's next?
it would be back there, correct? We're done.
We're done, okay.
Start all over again.
I interrupted myself and lost track. Well, now I think we're back to starting with Ethan.
Yep.
Is that right? Excellent. In 2018, the Eau Claire City Council passed a goal to achieve 100% renewable energy and carbon neutrality by the year 2050. Do you support this goal? And if so, what would you do as a city council member to help the city achieve this goal?
Yeah, I do support this goal of 100% renewable energy by 2050. I was one of the people who tried to make this happen in Menominee, and then I think a couple months later it happened in Eau Claire back in 2019 when I was still on student council. I was a fierce advocate to actually get the cities to acknowledge that we need to be carbon neutral by 2050. And a lot of what the work was just looking at replacing old vehicles and replacing old heating systems. I mean, I was at the UW Stout heating plant when they threw their last bucket of coal into the fire, right? And so that was like a big thing. So I'm kind of expecting the same things to happen in the city, just moving towards renewable energy, investing in things like solar panels and windmills, and just boring stuff like that will help our city not pollute so much by 2050. So thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Joshua?
Thank you. Yes, I 100% support the 100% renewable by 2050. I don't have the exact number. We're a good way of the way there. I think we're 40. I mean, we're ahead of the curve to get there. I'll just put it that way. And the main way this is going to happen is that the city, we can do small stuff around the city. We can try to put. It's not very functional to put solar panels on a building because you don't have enough room on the building to fully do the building. So the better way to do it is to have solar panel farms adjacent to the city where you can feed back in. I think this spring there's going to be one supposed to be coming online just north of here, between here and Chippewa Falls. That will add to the grid. We have the solar farm on the south side of town. It's a smaller trial one, but it showed Xcel Energy moving that way. And a lot of it's going to come because the city, we get our energy from Xcel Energy. But fortunately, they have been a good partner, and they themselves are also working towards renewable goals. We at the city, as a customer of Xcel Energy, need to continue to pressure them to continue where they are going, because to actually get there, it's going to require them continuing their push to be 100% reliable. And not only the city of Eau Claire, but Eau Claire County and anybody, any municipalities who are customers of Xcel Energy need to make sure that they keep their pledges to also become energy carbon neutral by 2050. I don't know if they meant the full company, but they will at least have offerings to their clients that where you can be a customer and have your energy be fully renewable by a certain date. So just keep the pressure on the big providers.
Thank you, Joshua. Nate?
Right. I fully support this. Now, here are the reasons not to support it. The reasons not to support it are: first, one, Eau Claire is just one city. Why is just one city spending this money to help, improve the climate? The thing is, thousands of cities are doing this. We are doing our part to keep up. The second argument against it is it's not fiscally responsible. There are other cheaper temporary solutions. It is fiscally responsible. First off, the technology is improving. We are getting more and more efficient at it. What's going on at the Sonatag Center is a fine example of sustainable energy. And we're getting better at it, and it is the fiscally responsible option. I fully support 100% carbon neutrality.
Thank you, Nate. Mary Catherine?
I'm for green, always have been. I'm into more of figuring out how we can take the waste that we have and create it into something new. That's the way I always look at it. We can always look at, you know, solar and wind and electric. We have to always look a little differently at certain things because we all live in the Arctic up here some days, you know, and certain things don't go. I'm not all into the electric because I actually see what it takes to make a lithium battery, right? A lithium battery is, it's devastating to our earth. So I don't, see, for me, I don't like putting all my eggs into one basket. I think that we can't go 100% one way ever because we've learned, right? We should have went all the way 100% oil. It wasn't the way to go. I'm more looking at it that we have to look at all the multiple ways that we can create a better environment for our world. And that is that we do some electric, we do, you know, some air, some, you know, solar. And then we also, the other side of that is that we learn how to reuse the products that we create. And so that's the way I think if you're gonna go as green as you can, and it's also looking at what are we using for products that are putting into our earth. I grew up on a farm that we didn't use anything but organic fertilizer. I don't know why. We used steam engines. So I kind of grew up in a very organic farm, even before organic was cool. So I'm all about the green.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah, I am committed to the city's goal, and one big carbon emitter is through construction and through development. And I was actually just watching a video about this today during lunch, and it was a city down south that was redeveloping their giant open empty parking lots. Because when you have a community that was obsessed with parking like many communities were back in the 70s, you have giant open parking lots, and now we see that many of them are sitting empty for a majority of the time. And I think some cities have found very, very interesting ways of redeveloping these to introduce more greenery, more tree coverage, and to turn these what were empty parking lots into housing, but smart housing in the sense that it's not just or housing with no shade or no greenery or no parks. There's really a way for cities to kind of focus on this infill development in particularly unused areas, these giant parking lots or giant empty lots, and really try to focus on how we can kind of turn it into, like I was mentioning earlier in this, these mini communities. So you're, instead of just putting up housing, you're putting up housing, a park, potential shopping, potential grocery, right? Everything kind of encompasses together to be this smart development that can really help the city reach its sustainability goal, and if not officially reach it, come close to it, and at least maintain development that provides the quality of life that residents are going to want in a warming world. Thank you.
thank you, Charlie.
No, I started.
That's right. I was looking at the clocks. When do we have to finish, Janice?
It would be, we need 15 minutes for closing, so
I know that.
6:45, we need to.
So we have about 10 more minutes.
Yes, we should do.
Does anyone need to stand up for a minute and then sit down? We can handle it for another 10 minutes? Okay. And then it'll be the closing statements. Okay. How does the city council decide what properties qualify for a TIF district? And the first person to answer this will be Joshua.
Thank you. TIF districts are they're a tool defined by state statute. So we don't define what can be eligible as a TIF district. This is defined by state statute. So when a developer comes forward and we think that a TIF would be useful here, then we can do a TIF. And for people who don't know what a TIF means, that's tax increment financing. So what it does is that, so you have an empty lot downtown and it's making, the property owner is paying, let's say $10,000 a year to the city. What the TIF will do is that it allows someone to build a development there, and then they'll build the development, and then any new taxes that they are now paying to the city go back into that property for a duration, usually like 20 years. It is used to build things that would not be possible if the extra funding did not go back into that property. Now, the base $10,000 still comes to the city, so the city's not losing. We are still getting the same amount of money had nothing happened there, but something did happen there. A great new development was built, and the tax from that goes into, and not just the building, and like, it will go into the streets or the infrastructure at that place. So that's how a TIF works. So we've used TIFs all over the place, a lot downtown. The redevelopment authority uses TIFs. They're a great tool. And then after the 20 years is gone, then all that new revenue coming from that property is now going into the city's general fund. So we didn't lose anything in the meantime. Something that could not exist if it were not for the TIF is there, and then later we get the money. So it's pretty much a win for the development and the cities. And since it's defined by state statute, we don't pick places, but people can come say, we think a TIF would be good here, and then we explore that option. And that's kind of, good luck following that one, because that's kind of the definition.
I know. Like he said.
You don't have to answer the question if you feel.
Yeah, that was answered. I think. Governor?
All right, thank you. Well, the previous speaker, while Josh said, really good lesson on TIFs. Here's how I might approach them as a member of the city council. TIFs are kind of an investment into the future, where we anticipate an area would continue growing, and Eau Claire has been quite successful with TIFs. The Confluence area, Confluence area, River Prairie is Altoona. Confluence has been an excellent TIF. I would advocate for a TIF. We can certainly do a lot to advocate for TIFs because we do work with the state legislature. If that prospective TIF was centrally located, if it was along good public transit routes, if we accounted for parking, and if we accounted for congestion, if all those factors play out okay, and yes, some of those are conflicting factors, I would be an advocate for any proposed TIF. If not, then we do have some influence over preventing the TIFs.
What they said.
Yeah, I guess just,
It's all right for you to pass because
Yep.
this is not something that the city council decides about a TIF district as Joshua initially told you. It's something that's, the rules are passed down to us.
yeah, I think, just in the
Charlie, do you have an opinion?
no, just in the essence of time, I think Josh mentioned that it is kind of a definition-based answer, and I think he provided a very informative definition for members of the audience here tonight.
Very good. I have a question that's directed to a specific candidate here, and that's probably why it got set aside, because it was a little confusing. Ethan Reed, the person writing this, says, they lost out on 5 to 7 years of employment without a train to Minnesota, Twin Cities. And the Minnesota DOT is willing, but the Wisconsin DOT talked with no action. The result was a loss of livable jobs. Now, to me, that's more of a statement, but if you want to respond to that particular kind of issue.
Sure, I invite whoever wrote that question to reach out to me afterwards. Would love to have a more in-depth chat about your situation and what could be done. I think in terms of what I would do if I was on the city council, generally speaking, I'm totally for the kind of Amtrak expansions that we're seeing between here and Madison and the cities, and I think that's all I really have to say.
Because of the time situation, and because it'll take us about 15 minutes to go through the closing statements of the candidates, I'm going to suggest that Charlie begin with his closing statement and work this way. They each get 3 minutes, and that will be the conclusion of our forum. So Charlie?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for our host for having this. It's a bit difficult in an at-large council race to get face-to-face with constituents, and so it's always great to have opportunities like this to share our viewpoints and also mingle afterwards and before. But again, I've had the pleasure of serving on council for the past 3 years. I feel that as a council we've done fantastic work, but of course there is still so much more to do as a council and so much more to do to ensure that Eau Claire maintains the success into the future. And essentially, with politics being a bit chaotic on the national scale right now, potential loss of funding, I think it really highlights the need for local government to be as efficient and effective as possible. And I really want to bring that leadership style so we can continue this to ensure that no matter what's happening at the state level or the national level, at least we know locally we have a strong direction, a strong heading. I really want to ensure that I use my previous skills in lobbying in Madison to try and increase our shared revenue so that we get our fair share of our taxes here in our city so we can put it towards affordable housing, transportation, infrastructure, our parks, public safety. Right? These are all things that as a city we shouldn't have our hands tied, but we do, like many municipalities do across the state of Wisconsin. And we've made good strides on increasing this shared revenue, but we deserve more and we need more, and that'll be one of the top priorities for me. And also just in strengthening and continuing to build on these community partnerships. We have so many fantastic businesses, experts, organizations within our community that when working in tandem with the city and when supported by the city can really be an engine for success. And I want to continue that work for the next 3 years on council. So thank you all so much for being here. I'd be happy to speak more with you all afterwards.
Thank you, Charlie. Mary Catherine.
All right, guys, in closing, the reason I'm here is for you. I'm not here for me. I'd rather spend my Tuesdays on a couch watching TV with my husband. But I'm an advocate, and so I will get up there, and I will get out there, and I will make sure that your voices are heard at the city council level. That's why I'm here. I've been doing it for a lot of years, making my voice really loud, and most of the people that are on city council know me, because they've known I've been in the rooms trying to get things thought about, and discussed, and maybe moving forward. I couldn't do it on the outside, so now I'm going inside. Sometimes you have to go inside to get some things done. So my hope is that you will vote, and I think it's hilarious that our vote this year is on April Fool's Day, especially after the elections we just went through. But my whole thing here is that I want to find fiscal responsibility in our city. I want to find out where the money is going and how we're spending it, and that it's going spent and being spent the correct way. That's a main focus of me. Of course, you know I'm all about affordable housing, and I will try to work with them to try to let them understand what's going on out here in our community, and to get them to be more involved in the community so that they can have a better perspective. I want to bring more life experience into our city council, where actually what I'm going to be doing if I become a city council person, and even if I don't, you guys will have my numbers, I will meet with people once a month to find out what's going on in my community. I never want to not be a part of the community, even if I become a city council person. So that is one thing I will do. I saw that the city council is looking at fiscal responsibility. I'm glad they're finally doing that. But I want to bring it a little bit step further. And I want to make sure that every voice, again, is heard at the city council. That it's not an echo chamber that just keeps going in the same direction. And so that's my main thing of going up there, because there's a lot of people out here that are living in Eau Claire that just don't really feel like they're a part of anything in the city again. And I want people to also, I'm advocating out here to tell people that when we talk about government, we will go through elections and things like that. People really do not understand that the people that hold your purse strings are the people that are sitting up here, that would be sitting up here. So let us use your taxes correctly and have a part of that discussion with us on how we spend your money.
Thank you, Mary Catherine. Nate?
All right, so I'm Nate Otto, and I'm running for Eau Claire City Council out of gratitude for this community that helped my family and that I want to continue to help other families. I believe in a city of mixed-use, walkable development, of responsible, sustainable growth. I believe the role of a leader is first and foremost that of a listener, and this is the philosophy I had on the county board. And that's one thing not to mention is that the government of Eau Claire has limited control. We are a free society, we're not a gated community, and there are national forces in play that are pretty tough. I mean, housing prices are tough right now, homelessness, mental illness, those are all national forces confronting Eau Claire. This metaphor keeps going through my head that a ship at sea cannot control the wind and the waves, but we can adjust our sail. Eau Claire can adjust its sail and navigate these the best way possible. And there are some internal storms going on with this town too that were not discussed, limited time, such as the conflict between some members of the business community and some members of the community government. And these are all challenges we'll have to face, but more importantly, we're going to face unknown challenges within the next 3 years. Who knows what the next 3 years will bring? And I'm running to confront the unknown, the surprise, and I'll continue this data-driven approach. Finally, I just want to say how honored I am to be here. Everybody who's here could be doing something else. And instead, you came here for the better part of 2 hours to listen to 5 people ramble, myself included. So, I'm in a room filled with people who care. Regardless of our disagreements, we're all united in the fact that we care, and for that, I am honored.
Thank you, Nate. You stole some of my closing speech. Joshua.
Thank you, and I'll start off by apologizing for how fast I talk. I apologize for that. I just have a lot of ideas, and I want to get them all out in 3 minutes or so, so thank you for bearing with me this evening. But how fast I talk about this stuff, I think it hopes to show you that I do my homework on everything on City Council. I read the package thoroughly. I listen to all the people who write in. Everybody who's ever written me, I've written your email, and I try to reply as many as I can, but there's just too many sometimes I can't get back to it. If you've written me, I swear I have read your email, and I'm taking your thoughts into consideration. The City Council has done good work in the past 3 years, but I wanted to continue what I've built on and do the work that lies ahead. Always is a challenge to city funding. Structural deficit is always what the city finance director starts every meeting with. We need to go back to the state legislature, see about different funding. Also, but other things I want to look at is our resources, our urban forestry. We're working to get urban forestry, so to get back the tree loss that we've done with the emerald ash borer devastation, but also as we develop, making new rules that developers need to protect our trees more so we don't lose more canopy as we develop into the future. Alluded to earlier that we do have some conflicts with some of our boards. The downtown Eau Claire Incorporated DECI recently spun off from the city to do their own thing, and there's been some rocky relationships, but I'm in contact with people on them and the bids to try to get a better agreement and working out between the city and our vital downtown partners. And then the unhoused, the community resource center that's going to be coming online here, and the street ambassadors program that's going to help the downtown businesses and also people experiencing homelessness navigate the new system coming out. And then, you know, I have my own guiding principles, but I really listen to everybody. And one of the hardest things about city council being there is you can have a room full of people who are all on one side of the issue, but you know there's people out there who are going to benefit even more on the other side of the issue. And I never forget the people who aren't in the room at city council and what might be best for them. I kind of have a mission statement that I live by is that I try to do the most good or the least harm. Now, in an ideal world, every situation that comes to us is going to be great. Oh, how can we do the best thing? And that's going to be easy. But then sometimes we're going to have to make a bad decision, and somebody's going to get hurt by it, or things aren't going to go as well. And then what can we do to mitigate the loss? And so on council, I'm listening to all the voices. I'm thinking about the people who aren't there. I'm thinking about the people who maybe somebody doesn't like this idea here, but it's going to benefit. And in 5 years, we're going to have this great new thing, and it's going to benefit more people. And that's the greater good. So I'm there to listen to all of you. I've learned so much in the past 3 years, and I want to continue representing you for 3 more years. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Ethan.
Thank you. Happy to close this out. I'll keep it less than 3 minutes. A lot's changed for me since I moved to the Chippewa Valley 9 years ago. Eau Claire has been a home for me. It's given me opportunities to build a life, and I want to make sure that it continues to give the same opportunities to people in the future. I'm running to make sure Eau Claire is affordable, connected, and ready for the future. I'm running on investing in affordable housing, building safe infrastructure, and strengthening our local economy. I fought for fair wages, workplace protections, and policies that put Eau Claire families first. Now I'm running for City Council to bring that same problem-solving approach to local government to build a stronger Eau Claire. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want all of you to think about what it takes to get to the spot where you want to run for this office, and you're trying to do what you can to get there. And I want you to give them a round of applause for tonight. Now, we have this room until 7:30. Well, actually, we have it a little longer than that, but don't say that because we have to clean up. But that means you can talk to these individual people. If your question didn't get answered, and there are some that didn't make it because time doesn't go on forever here, you can come and talk to somebody about that question tonight, right here, right now. And now I want you guys to, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. I want you people to applaud these people who came to listen to you. Thank you. And thank you all for coming. There are some refreshments in the back, and there are reasons why you might want to stay and do some talking.